Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Worst Ofs, the best of worst ofs anywhere in the lower 48 contiguous states of our blessed union. I'm your host for this, intrinsically beneficial, eye-opening, and enlightening odyssey. My name is Pat Myaz, and what a pleasure and honor, in fact, to be able to lead you on this quest to relieve ourselves of the endless bombardment of brainwashing and social engineering that we've been immersed within throughout the entirety of our lives here in this crude, indoctrinational society that we've been subjected to all of our miserable lives. And today's top 10 worst of list is really just absolutely spectacular, peerless, in fact, and it's never been often imitated, never replicated. Top 10 worst shrinkflation items. Now, I think most of you, just to maybe give you a little bit of background of what I'm really trying to accomplish here. Most of you, I think, have a pretty good facility at what the idea of a top 10 list is. It's a list containing 10 items arranged in hierarchical ascending order, with the best, most intrinsically valuable items at the top of the list. Shrinkflation, that's, a sneaky little tactic that the billionaires are employing against us. Now that they've eliminated competition, they can do things like this where they, we've expected over the years, a can of tuna to have, a pouch of tuna, 1.8 ounces of tuna and tuna flavor inside the pouches, but they'll sneak in and turn it into 1.75 ounces of tuna and tuna flavor in the pouch without telling us, and they'll just try to maybe shrink the amount of the package, and we're paying the same amount of money for even more in many cases. So it's like, okay, like, if you're going to pull some shiznaz like that, well, we're going to respond by trying to put together institutions that allow working class people and their sympathetic representatives to be able to have their own distribution network for thoughts, ideas, and creativity. Just kidding. You'd never do anything like that. You're too busy marching around with cutesy little signs going like, oh, I hate Trump, but I go to Cubs games and give over a bunch of my money to the Ricketts family. Well, anyway, so shrinkflation's become a thing again now that they've completely. Eddie Lampert was like the key. He was the one who got rid of the last of the really pertinent competition in the United States when he got rid of Sears and Kmart through built-in obsolescence and destroyed it from within. And I'm sure that he got a golden parachute somewhere from somebody for doing that. He had Sears and Kmart all under the same umbrella. Instead of combining the stores, you could have the sort of quality of Sears with the discounts of Kmart. Instead of doing that, he just turned them both into junk and allowed them to implode and made it look like bad management. And that left us with, just a few box stores left for the purchases of, essential items. And now they're manipulating. The new manipulation is for them to try to have people boycotting Target for a variety of primarily inconsequential reasons. I mean, if you're going to bother with trying to eliminate Target, no matter what you think was offensive about what they do, you're just going to wind up with Amazon and Walmart as the only two places where you can get, like essential dry goods and whatnot. And, I'm going to just, whatever the transgressions are from Target, they're going to be a whole lot less than the world that we'll be facing when it's Walmart and Jeff Bezos who are the people who are in charge of everything that we need to survive on a daily basis. And so, I mean, again, brain deadness and manipulations and ignorance are just such advanced personality types that we've been, molded into over the years. And that's, so that's what today's is. Before we get started with all that, I just want to mention that, these are all opinions. These are my thoughts and general observations, but I'm not going to provide you with a bunch of, footnotes and cataloging the where I received, all this information from. You're just going to have to find it out for yourself. If you think that I'm, talking out my ass, then go and freaking look it up. God damn it. What do you expect me to do? All the heavy lifting? Look at me. Does it look like I can do any lifting? Even lifting my ass out of a chair is a life-threatening endeavor for me. And I'm not partisan. I'm not trying to fool anybody and anything. I just, at this point in my life, I'm just on my last legs. For 30 years, I tried to change the world by making, helping to try to catalyze a peaceful revolution by empowering good people, building institutions that are dedicated to counter-programming what we're being brainwashed with by the powers that be through their third-party outsourced propaganda ministry that we all lovingly refer to as the mainstream media. But unless we figure out some kind of way to come up with a means to be able to distribute independent thought and counterculture throughout our society at large, that's not manipulated by the billionaires, that's not manipulated by their lapdog psyops pros and marketing jagoffs on Madison Avenue, we're just doomed. I'm going to be the bearer of bad news, but hey, what the hell? Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to slap your ass in the face or slap your face in the ass, something like that. Now, do you think that every time, back in the, 70s, you watch like clips from 70s, things like that, and so where anytime everybody makes a, good play, like the coach or another player, like pat someone on the ass, like, oh, hey, good play, pat him on the ass. Now, do you think that was considered to be sexual harassment back in the day? Like, people were just so hung up on any kind of touch from anybody that, pat on the ass would be considered to be, today, would be considered to be the precursor towards a lifetime ban from everything that everybody else be like, you'd be canceled forever. One pat on the ass and your life's work is done. I'm looking at poor Kevin Spacey, great actor and everything like that. Pats a couple guys on the ass. Dunsky. Off to Siberia, the Siberia of nobodies. But if Kevin Spacey was a football player back in 1970, and playing flanker, and his buddy got a great catch in the end zone to go ahead in the final 2 minutes of the playoff game, Kevin Spacey taps on the ass, go, good play, buddy, and just keeps going back to the sideline, and it's no big whoop. Poor Kevin Spacey was born 45 years too late in the ass tap era. Ass slap era. Anyway, so what was I doing? Oh, yeah. So before we get started on this thing, people think that these are, sort of made up bunch of baloney, weapons grade balonium, as it were. But no, there's a team of very astute former middle managers for Woolworths, five and dime store, who gathered together with me outside of local TGI Fridays and come up with these lists while taking copious doses of laudanum mixed with children's Tylenol. And we've also got some sponsors here coming up from the owners of Six Flags Over America. It's False Flags Over America coming soon. White Flags Over Vietnam. False Flags Over America. Try your very best to, like, hey, you got 9/11, you got Gulf of Tonkin, you've got the other 9/11. You got 9/11 in New York, 9/11 Pentagon, 9/11 in Pennsylvania. You got various 9/11s. You've got Iran Contra. You've got the Tower Commission. You've got Warren Commission. You've got all kinds of different commissions that are putting us out of commission. Why is it that the only people that we allow to be able to investigate crimes that the government might be involved in, or certainly the beneficiary of, is the only resource we allow to investigate that is the government? It's like, saying, hey, Al Capone, come here, Al. Look, we're kind of busy right now, and we're kind of distracted with other stuff. We're going to let you investigate your own tax evasion case. How's that? We're going to give you a blank check. You go out, do whatever you want. We don't really care. We don't even care what you come up with at the end of it. Just get it done. We're busy. We got other stuff to do. And Al Capone comes back like 6 years later and says, I'm totally innocent, dudes. That's what our country is like. And then you wind up, the presidents can pardon people who are, every single time are criminals, are convicted criminals. It's like, what the hell? Who designed this country? It certainly wasn't the working class for the benefit of the masses. Tanaway DeBronzer, a big new sponsor of Top 10 Worst Evidence. Pride and Prejudice, the Republican story. Why is it that we have to follow along with these strictures and, on the face of it, extremely antisocial, pathological traditions of the Puritan religious sect when they got thrown out of Europe as cast-outs? Why will we use that, people like that as the model to build our entire cultural edifices off of? Then there's for the new kids game for birthday parties and stuff like that, to try to get them out of try to get their faces out of the screens for just a minute. It's Pin the Tail on the Honky, from the makers of Pin the Tail on the Donkey. Texas Chainsaw Mass, the new movie sequel from the people that brought you Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Mass, where a bunch of religious people are, praying on a Sunday, and then they go out and they carve up a bunch of innocent college kids vacationing out at a lake and turn them into chili. Texas Chainsaw Mass. I think that's it. The Fantastic Foursome. It's a bunch of people going out to play golf. They make a fantastic foursome. You guys really make a fantastic foursome? Yes or no? All of us have the sort of same handicaps in long game. All right, so that's enough of that. This is always the best part of every one of these segments, is commercial endorsements. All right, so top 10 worst shrinkflation items. Here we go. Number 10. These are items that are shrinking that we pay the same amount or more for in a variety of different methods. And the top 10 worst shrinkflation items, and basically taking place over the last 10, 15 years or so. Talent. Talent is definitely, so they were paying the same amount or more to go to movies, concerts, and Disney on Ice, and things. And the talent is way less than it used to be. And then I'm talking about, the emotive talent of creatives that are being diminished in a wide variety of ways. The gatekeepers are especially attentive to making sure that the truly most creative, organically driven people, artists, are being marginalized and kicked to the curb as viciously and emphatically as possible, and allow in, the children of rich people who don't have a single genuine bone in their bodies, or they have the eye candy. That's a big one there. And then they've got the brain dead people who are just complete dummies, and you've got sellouts who just do it for the money, and they'll compromise their integrity on the cheap, and all those factors make it less likely that we'll have sort of like an authentic, expressive, deep, meaningful cultural mechanism where people feel deeply connected to it. I don't think people feel deeply connected in ways that when we'd see like Kate Bush 40 years ago, or early Peter Gabriel, stuff like that, where people just felt like they're truly speaking about things and caring about things and emoting with everything that they've got. And you felt like, these are other human beings that are out there in the world seeing the same types of things that are wrong with it that I do. But then you get, things like punk rock, and punk rock is just the biggest bunch of phony baloney garbage and stuff like that for cowards. Punk rock takes all that angst and energy and everything like that and channels it into the stupidest pastimes, getting drunk, running into each other in mosh pits, and just all the anger and the righteous indignation just goes evaporating out into the ether. And punk rock was never, and there's, people, maybe a few people got to be more aware of, I don't know, the Sandinistas or something, but really punk rock didn't really get that much into political stuff. It was mostly just sort of angst with the world and just how the world sucks. I mean, the Ramones really do anything? Rocket the Russians, stuff like that. Did they really influence a political movement where people were became self-sacrificing and gathered together in groups to create grassroots movements and institutions that really acted as a means for change in the world? No. Hello. So, number of the top 10 worst stuff list, top 10 worst shrinkflation items. So, number 9, objectivity in media. That's a shrinkflation item in a big way. There's never been a whole lot of objectivity in media. I mean, you go back to the late 60s, for example, and you get the Smothers Brothers show, which was probably one of, if not the only, maybe 3 or 4 shows in all of history. You get Dave Chappelle, Monty Python, and the first season of Saturday Night Live, where shows were actually really left-wing and anti-establishment. But they got rid of the Smothers Brothers back in the days when we didn't have non-disclosure agreements, so we got to find out exactly what they did for it, because it's the number one show on television throughout the country when they canceled it. And they told us, they told us because of the politics of the show were just too left-oriented. And name another show like that was like, that really was featured a bunch of people who were actually trying to get people to wake up and enjoy themselves, using satire, using comedy and music to be able to make big, raw, unadulterated statements about how compromised our freedom had become in this crypto-fascist state of ours. And all you got to do is see like Harry Belafonte doing what was it? Don't pay the ferryman. That was something totally different. Don't stop the carnival, and see the power of him singing over the top of the Democratic Convention, and the satire and the depth of character of the music and the intensity of the ideas that were involved in that one piece, and to know that it was banned, that they wouldn't show it, and then they got rid of the whole goddamn show. So, I mean, talk about objectivity, there's really never really been a lot of it. And you had, like, for the amount of, maybe Twilight Zone, stuff like that in the 50s, you had Leave It to Beaver and Ozzie and Harriet and Father Knows Best and Car 54, Where Are You? And Amos and Andy. And just these horrible, bigoted, racist, indoctrinational shows designed to, whitewash everybody into being, brainless and obedient. This was another great example in the late 60s was the debate between Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley on the on the presidential conventions in 1968, and they had debates and everything like that. And this is back in an era when debates were like really better understood by the public at large, and at a much higher level of education, baseline education that we had back in those days, and people just understood it. And Gore Vidal whips William F. Buckley's ass in the second to last debate when he calls him out about crypto fascism in the Republican Party, and William F. Buckley loses it and says, "I'm going to kick your ass and it'll stay kicked," and he outs Gore Vidal as gay on national television. I mean, it's totally meltdown in terms of like the real etiquette and sort of scorecard that you'd see in a typical debate. Now, what happened after that ass whooping that Gore Vidal served up? Gore Vidal now being publicly outed as a gay person, where at a time when I think it was 49 of the U.S. states, gay sex was actually illegal at the time, and so he has to become kind of like an expat. He sticks around for a while. He has some good books and stuff like that, but he was definitely a sort of persona non grata. And William F. Buckley gets a weekly series where he becomes the longest running single host of any talk show series in history. So the guy who lost the debate because he's an ultra right winger gets rewarded, and the guy who's the left winger gets, his life ruined. And that's, so we haven't had a lot of objectivity in media all throughout. Ever since the 50s, it's been, even before. You had, Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst, who were destroying left wingers' lives, all throughout from the early 1900s all the way on. They destroyed Fatty Arbuckle because he was too far to the left, and a bunch of lies about him being a rapist and a murderer that he was acquitted from after having his name run through the muck by Hearst's and Pulitzer's gossip columnists, Luella Parsons and others, and then they went after Charlie Chaplin after he did a movie that was just a little bit too far to the left with The Great Dictator, and then they ruined his life on trumped up charges. He was brought to court for having a child out of wedlock with an underage woman, and it turns out they did a blood test and they found out that Chaplin wasn't the father, but the court wouldn't admit the test results. And so, in the meantime, again, they're using their gossip columns to destroy this guy's life. And he never really did much in the way. He did a few movies after the fact, but really wasn't anything of the intensity of the movies that he'd done prior to that. And who knows what would have happened with Orson Welles, who went up against William Randolph Hearst and tried to, even to a much smaller extent than what he could have been. It could have been just a total annihilation of the whole yellow journalism thing and brought that to light. But he didn't choose any of that stuff. Instead, he, a few insults of his paramour and just even looking into the entirety of William Randolph Hearst's life, and Orson Welles was ruined forever. And they went after him in a big way, even using like voodoo against him. And so here's a guy who at the age of 25 does what is widely considered to be the greatest film ever made, and throughout the rest of his life, because of what they did, only made 8 more movies, if memory serves, something along those lines. Here's a guy who could have done a movie a year for 50 years, and have them been, where Citizen Kane was just his first movie. Imagine what this guy would do if he's doing a movie every year, what he would have gotten to by the end of that. So objectivity in media, but you're getting, it's getting, even with all of that throughout history, you talk about, lies about building the Spanish-American War, and the original yellow journalism, things like that. So you didn't really have a lot to begin with. And they were never like the Fourth Estate, or never served as the watchdog. It was never a watchdog against the rich. that it purported to be. But it's getting much more emphatic and relentless in today's day and age, where you get all the various different types of alt-right media outlets. Get the Daily Wire, and you get oh shucks, sorry, and you get QAnons and Breitbarts and Newsmaxes and Fox and Clear Channel / I Love iHeartRadio, and all these various different ultra right wing outlets that sort of group together as the alt right, that are all just nothing but relentless lies and indoctrinational hoo-ha. And it's gotten to the point where there just is no alternative view than ultra-right and things pretending to be left-wing that are actually ultra-right in impact. And so you got all that. Number 8, the top 10 worst shrinkflation items, potato chips. Like, what is going on with potato chips, right? I mean, you used to be able to get a bag for $1.59. You get the big fat bag for $1.59, and that's not too long ago. And now, the same big fat bag is like $7 or something, like crazy. And they're full of air. The bags are just like, it's 90% air. It's like, the Graf Zeppelin over here with a few chips scattered there, looking in there. Are there any chips at all? Yeah. So there we go. Number 7 of the top 10 worst shrinkflation items, representation for the working class. That's shrinkflating in a big way. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was, but something along the lines of like a 20-something, 30% or something like that of the amount of assets of the billionaire class in the last 3 or 4 years. It's so insanely crazy that something is like really super wrong. It's just completely off the rails. Number 6 of the top 10 worst shrinkflation items, human beings' participation in the making of music. Now, that is shrinking. It's shrinking, buddy. Shrinking in a big way. It's all. I mean, corporations are buying out all the publishing out from underneath the creatives, so that people like Lindsey Buckingham, for example, sold out all of his catalog. Bob Dylan, blah blah blah. All these people are selling out their publishing rights to giant corporations, and so now the corporations own all the back catalogs and stuff, so they can start using it to. For movies and television, all kinds of things without the artist's consent, and so on and so forth. But even more, I think threatening is the fact that they're replacing music with like computers, and so that there's you don't need to. AI can do better. In fact, I heard an AI Frank Sinatra album, and it was as good or better even than Frank Sinatra. I mean, what's the point? Why even keep the human beings involved in it all anymore? It doesn't make any. Well, there was a lot of emphasis on the wrong syllables, and they went, "Why even bother keeping human beings involved in the radio industry, the music industry at all? There's no point." I mean, Milli Vanilli set the trend. Not having any human beings involved with the making of the music that they're being sold as, in order to be able to cash in a little easier, manipulate the entirety of the cultural apparatus, and make it worse and worse on people, more dry and humorless and stale and decisively homogenized, so that nobody has to worry about any of those like messy little human feelings and art of expression or organically driven creativity. It's bad news, man. Bad news. So human beings participating in the making of music, we need to replace that with product placement, with various different infomercials disguised as 3-minute long songs. Like Red Solo Cup and I Love This Bar and Versace on the Floor. And, the whole idea, the identity of, just getting rid of all that stuff, I think it's going to pave the way for the AI robots to feel a little bit more comfortable once they start to arrive and replace the human beings on a mass level, because they'll be listening. Think about it, if they were coming in, these AI robots with no personality, there's no to start with. No sort of emotive qualities or any sort of loyalty to or buzz from having high intensive feelings. And they come in, and if they had a culture that was all based on feelings and intellectual expressions and making deep, meaningful, artistic endeavors happen, I mean, the AI robots would start to freak out, man. They'd be like, "What is wrong with me? Why do I not feel? Am not feeling? Must destroy everyone." On the road to having their head spin off of their necks, and that's not good. But if you create all these cultural mechanisms that are just redundant, like making all these Willy Wonka and the chocolate factories, there's no way that an AI robot would look at all the remakes of the Willy Wonka movies and kind of go like, "Why am I not creative? What is creative? Who am I?" They look at it and go like, "This is so robotic. I feel warm and cozy and fuzzy." You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's part of, I think, what they're up to. They've got these 20-year-long plans and stuff like that. They don't want to freak out their brand new AI robots with too much integrity, artistic integrity. What is this? What am I feeling? I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm confused. Yeah. So they got to get some shrinkflation on that one. Top 10 worst shrinkflation items. Number 5, independent small businesses. Now, they really kind of have entrusted the destruction of independent small businesses to the local level. I saw an article just the other day where they're, and this is June 11th as I'm doing this, like a day or so ago, they announced that by July 1st here in Chicago that they're going to be raising the minimum wage, a couple of bucks. And it's like, wow, how are these people going to, these small businesses, how are they going to adjust? They got 3 weeks to be able to get ready to pay a couple bucks more an hour per worker, and then they're increasing the paid time off, make it easier for them to get to 40 hours, and they get and that has to be paid out if people don't take the time. However, small business is going to be able to afford that, and a bigger business, box stores where they've got some liquidity and stuff like that, where they can move money around and stuff. They don't have to borrow to get those funds. So what are these small businesses going to do? They can't compete, just like they can't compete with box stores that have their own private parking, as they eliminated parking from out in front of all the stores with all these insane bicycle concrete barricades and whatnot. That all of a sudden, after 100 years of everything sort of coexisting, we needed to have them within a year and spend $1 billion in a bankrupt city like Chicago. I mean, it's just, so they're shrinkflating all the parking for small businesses. They're shrinkflating all of the operating capital that it needs to be able to run these businesses by giving people on. And look, people need a fair wage, but by imposing it on small businesses like that with 3 weeks advance notice is an attack on small businesses. You're trying to shrinkflate independent small businesses. And again, there's no other way to look at it. And again, most of these things are happening in large blue cities. So it's these fake Democrats who are out looking to advance the cause of the ruling elite by destroying the causes of the working class. And the working class are making a few extra bucks, but there's just look at all the fast food joints that have been closing. Thousands of them. Where are people going to get the jobs that, those little after school jobs and stuff like that to earn a few bucks to either help the family out or help themselves raise a few bucks to be able to go to school or raise a few bucks to just be able to have some fun out of life? Thousands of them are gone. And I think that they're, messing with us. That's all shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is much, as you can tell, I feel shrinkflation is much bigger than the problem has been presently defined to us as. Number 4 of the top 10 worst shrinkflation items, cereal boxes. Cereal boxes is just like a bunch of big air, and just like the potato chips things. Trick cereal is down to 1 trick. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten. Number 3 of the top 10 worst shrinkflation items, crack rocks. Crack rocks, the big chunks that they used to be, big fat chunks, that you'd have to be like, wow, can I even fit this in my goddamn bowl? Oh, no. Now it's just like they look like little, I don't know, like from the grains of sand, so are the days of our lives. Number 2, the top 10 worst shrinkflation items: people's brains. I don't think that should be a surprise to anybody. And it's not just, through, I think, chemicals and all kinds of different things that they're doing to us. And but I think they're also, TikToking us and, Twittering and all these different things that are creating a more myopic means of communication, which it's all surface minded. And they've, created an environment, a cultural aspect of our lives where intelligence is looked upon as bad, very bad, and then people just, they just don't want to have anything to do with anything in depth. You talk to them about something deep, and either they'll wind up hating you because it comes into conflict with their own political affiliations and indoctrination. Like, oh my God, look at this freaking lefty woke asshole. What beat his ass, and they go chasing him out and throwing bricks at his head, and that's a real deal. I mean, people will be cloistered, they'll get attacked by Facebook and stuff, it's manipulating people's reactions, where they'll show, anybody who shows anything, any kind of like independent thought or whatnot for their promotions, their posts and things like that, and people will show it at the top of the newsfeed to people who feel not only antagonistic against it, but have in the past shown themselves to be very aggressively confronting people that say anything online that they disagree with, and they will threaten them, they will make them feel nervous, anxiety, and feel unsafe. And that'll stop them from talking there too. So it's get to the point where it's not just the fact that they're reducing our education, they're reducing the depth of our cultural mechanisms, but they're also rewarding, dummies with social Darwinism by making a bunch of athletes be, millionaires getting tons of money. And a bunch of athletes are now the commentators for all the sports games and stuff instead of having professional commentators. So you wind up having, degrading the opportunities for people who are intellectually driven and intellectually experienced and have a great deal of acumen and depth of their educational and experiential knowledge, so that you won't be able to have any of those people getting jobs, so that it'll make it impossible for those people to survive. That's what they call social Darwinism. Hey, wake up. Why don't you do something for yourself and learn a few things that they're being used as weapons against us in society before it's too late? But you don't want to bother. You don't want to be bothered. You've got 5 hours worth of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt to get through over the weekend, every day. People's brains shrinkflating. Go ahead and just catch the flavor wave. And number 1 of the top 10 worst shrinkflation items. Oops, I had a premature bell sounding there. Sorry about that. Top 10 worst shrinkflation items. Number 1, what's inside my pants? How dare you? Anyway, that's all the time we got for top 10 worst items. What an incredible pleasure it's been to be able to review all these various different elements, which are sure to provide you hours upon hours of fun and excitement. Oh, just wait till you go to your next party and start talking to people about the shrinkflation of your crack rocks and potato chip bags. And you become the hit of the party, and, actually you'd be 2 hits at the party. Number 1 would be someone hitting you in the face, and the other one is your body hitting the ground. All right, so anyway, one more thing before we go. I wanted to make sure I